Hey guys, SMDBZX here. I just have to really quickly explain something. Timestamp down below if you want to quickly just skip the intro and get to the video. This is a re-upload because of some audio issues that I was not informed of. I had to re-edit this video a month after it's been released. That was fun. And yeah, that's why this is a re-upload. So this video contains information. It's a brief overview of Yukari Yakumo. Okay, it's not a. I'm not going over all of her history. This isn't a video specifically about her powers, though I do go into that in this video. This is not a power scaling video. This is just me yapping about Yukari and briefly going over her character, her personality, her powers, her history. Just a brief overview, right? It's not a documentary, but I guess it's like the thing before a documentary, whatever that word would be. Anyway, I've taken up over a minute of your time. I'm going to quickly wrap this up. Thank you, and enjoy the re-edited video. Lady Yukari, the Gap Youkai, the Yokai Boundaries, Mommy. Yukari Yakumo is a character from Touhou Project who goes by many names and titles. In fact, I think it's safe to say that Yukari Yakumo is quite the popular character in the fandom. Not only has she been in the franchise for a large majority of it, since Touhou 7, if you count the secret boss, but she appears in many games in at least some sort of fashion, multiple official manga and databooks. And if that wasn't enough to make you think so, she was placed in 16th place in 2024, 2023, and 2022. Which doesn't put her in the top 10, but being in 16th place 3 years in a row, I wouldn't say is a bad thing either, considering there's hundreds of characters, likely at this point. Mommy also happens to be my favorite Touhou Project character, as you can probably tell from my profile picture and banner on my two channels. She may even give Alice a run for her money for best girl, but let's not risk unaliving her here. Her dolls are always listening. They're in my walls. Unlike GT Vegeta, who was the first person I went over in my Respect series, Mommy is most definitely a beloved character. However, I feel like it's for the wrong reason. I will also be writing this Lady Yukari script differently than that video. So please excuse me as this series is rather new, and I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. So let's talk about Mommy's history. Nah, fuck it. We're discussing this first. I feel like we need to get this one out of the way first. You know, I already made a meme out of it in the first part, but because while this is very much a joke for some people, I genuinely think this joke affects Yukari's popularity and is a byproduct of said joke. And yes, I will admit, I do follow along with this joke and even commit to it. It's kind of a bit for my streams and gaming channel. In fact, why don't I play the clip here? But before I play the clip, I just want to say that I have a friend who is genuinely put off from Yukari because of the mommy jokes. I mean, like, he doesn't hate Yukari, but when he looks into Yukari, which is my favorite character, all he sees is, well, he sees what this next clip is. SMDBZX, aka myself. Go ahead and play the clip. Mommy, mommy, So yeah, let's start off with what the hell does this even mean? Because some people might be genuinely confused, because, you know, not everyone is a gooner degenerate like me in the Discord server. Let's be honest, boys, that's what we are. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what a MILF is, right? Or at least has a general idea of what it means. Okay, so imagine that, and you basically have a mommy waifu. They're generally considered an older lady who's experienced and usually has a noticeable bosom as well as other well-rounded areas. But I think this is where we run into our first potential problem. Depending on how you look at it, I think it's kind of complex. You're seeing on screen, which, you know, I'm hoping to God I remember to do this, is Yukari Yakumo from Touhou 7. Look, it's quite ugly to be honest, but that's just Zun's art style, especially in these early games. And this next one I'm going to show you is a fan version of that character. And this is generally consistent across most of Touhou Project, most of the fan art. It's not just a Touhou Project thing, it's an internet thing. You take a woman and you give them bigger boobs. That's just how the internet works, because the internet's filled with gooners. That internet theory, more like gooner internet theory. Am I right, boys? Anyway, a mature-looking lady with large breasts and curves, and long blonde hair that normally has ribbons, but sometimes it doesn't, because it's the same in Toho. And yeah, she's fucking hot, at least in my opinion. And hey, I like boobs too. Here at SMDBZX Productions, we are pro-boob of any and all sizes. But since we're talking about boobs and how hot Yukari is, we could talk about our second problem. That problem is us, the Gooners. I mean, not me, because I'm built different, but yeah, the Gooners. The Gooners are the problem. And I know this seems obvious. Every franchise with a female character has Gooners, which you have no idea how much it pains me to say Gooners, but I literally don't have a better word, and that's the buzzword all the kids are using. So please forgive me if I sound like I'm in pain continuously saying the G word. However, maybe this is just my experience, but most, quote, Toho fans, end quote, that I run into aren't actually Toho fans. They're just guys who beat their sausages with some corn, if you get my gist. And I think this is part of why some people have a distaste for that mommy joke. Because for some people, Yukari literally only is mommy, and nothing else, rather than just a joke, or just someone to beat their hot dogs to. I'm gonna say it now. If you only like Toho for the corn, I don't think you're a Toho fan. And that's just my opinion. I could respect liking just Toho's music, or just Toho's fan games. Or maybe you like Toho's characters' designs, and I'll even accept that, right? But if it's only for the corn, I just don't think you're a real Toho fan. It's just my opinion. Like, I feel like you have to actually like something inside of Toho other than character designs to actually be a Toho fan. Like, literally anything at all. So, to recap everything I just said, I think it's okay to call Yukari mommy, and I would, and I do, because it's kind of a bit on my channel. However, most people who do this aren't actually Toho fans, and thus for people who either don't really look into the lore of Toho or are just casual fans, comes off as cringe and drives people away. At least that's my experience. I know when I first got into Toho, I got into Toho through fanfiction, and yeah, that's kind of what it seemed like to me. I was a lot more pure back then and not so far down the rabbit hole, and Toho just kind of seemed like this series that for people to make girls of, kind of like Hatsune Miku and Vroid and things like that, which I'm happy to learn that that's not the case. But with that out of the way, let's actually discuss Yukari's design, because so now we can actually talk about Yukari's design rather than just her body shape. And we're going to be going over all the outfits in order of release for the sake of ease. I will also be using the Toho Wiki to help explain these outfits and see them all. You should probably check out the Wiki, by the way, because the Wiki is great, and every time I've looked up the source to try to see if they're telling the truth, they have been. The Wiki is just great. Okay, it's amazing. Just you want to learn about Toho character, go read the Wiki. But with that out of the way, her first appearance is in Toho 7, where she has a simple purple dress and a mop cap with various ribbons. I personally find this to be my least favorite design. It's just so simple compared to the rest of them, but I still like it. She also noticeably has purple eyes here, which isn't too weird, given that Zune changes designs often, especially with Yukari. I can't think of any other characters who had a major change on their design aside from Yukari. In the Windows era, everyone got a major design change from PC 98 to Windows, but that's neither here nor there. Next we have Toho 7.5, and my favorite design. Her eyes have become a dark golden color, which is what they would remain for the rest of the series. She also now has a purple tabard with various symbols and a white dress. And her hair is put up in what I believe is a bun? I'm not quite sure. I think it's tied together, but knowing Yukari, it could literally be anything. This is personally my favorite design. I love the shade of her hair and how pretty she looks when she tries. And her golden eyes just adds to her sass somehow. God, I love Yukari. And then we have Touhou 8. I mean, God, I hate Touhou 8's design. The design is fine. It's the colors that I hate. They just... Blue just does not fit Yukari at all. Just get it out here. We're done with Touhou 8. We're moving to Touhou 10.5/12.3. Where she gets a remake of her 7.5 design. The colors have been slightly changed. The tabard's been simplified. It's good, but I prefer the 7.5 design personally. And after that, we have the most recent one, 15.5. Once again, the tabard is slightly different from her 7.5, 10.5, and 12.3 counterpart. The most noticeably different is that the dress is a light tone of pink. I, again, like this, but I still prefer the 7.5 outfit. So, it took Zune a second to figure out Yukari's design, and every main appearance she has a slightly different design. I kind of like that though, as even if you don't like a specific design, you'll likely find a new one later. And it wouldn't surprise me if she gets another new design in her next game appearance. One final thing I'll mention is I'm not sure where else I'd like to add this, but Yukari translates to purple, while Yakumo it literally translates to 8 clouds. Yukari Yakumo's name would be Purple 8 Clouds, which is something weird to think about, but hey, now you know. Now, the reason I'm covering her powers now, rather than her personality after her design, is because I feel like they kind of go hand in hand to me. So, I'm going to go as in-depth as I can. However, admittedly, her abilities are quite vague and a bit confusing, and up for interpretation. So, try and follow, and forgive me if I mess something up. Yukari is described to be an extremely powerful yokai, both in-universe and in multiple guidebooks. She's even been said to be able to completely destroy Gensokyo if she chose to in Touhou 8. And in Perfect Memento, in strict sense, her abilities are compared to gods, fundamentally undermining reality, as well as having the most dangerous ability. This would mean that Yukari has the most powerful ability in all of Touhou, at least as of 2006 when the guide was made, which would include all the games before Mountain of Faith. This is interesting because Mountain of Faith introduced us to Kanako Yasaka and Sawako Moria, who are actual goddesses. And yet, their abilities seem to pale in comparison to Yukari's on paper. That's more of the cast of Touhou 6 are what infamous for having overpowered abilities. That being Sakuya's Science God, Amelia's ability to control fate, and Flandre's ability to destroy absolutely anything. And yet, their abilities aren't described as godlike, and PMSS just straight up says Yukari's abilities are the most powerful. Aside from that, Yukari also seems to have some kind of damage resistance due to Han Meiling's victory line against Yukari in one of the games, but I can't confirm that this is really a thing. Yukari is also extremely intelligent, especially with numbers. She has been stated and shown to have superhuman intelligence on multiple instances, so much that not even Ran Yakumo, her Shikigami and closest servant, can understand her intelligence. The only other thing I can think of that could be brought up is her weapons. She's known to attack people with a hand fan, a parcel, stop signs, and even tricks.
NANI?!
'Speaking of abilities, I should probably describe what said abilities are, as for those of you who might not know or want to understand in more detail. And in fact, I'm going to give her main ability its own section, because I feel like it's important enough to do so, and complicated enough to do so. No, I'm not kidding. Yukari's main ability is to manipulate the boundaries, and she has quite a few sub-abilities that come from this. This ability is her oh-so-deadly, strongest ability, godlike ability. Why don't we let her explain it herself? Quote, I'm a yokai with the ability to control the boundaries between any and all things. This power allows me to remove the boundaries between anything. Gensokyo and the outside world, the worlds of living and the dead, humans and yokai, even day and light. A beautiful flower blooming violet every 60 years. Another quote. The ability to manipulate boundaries is a terrifying ability capable of fundamentally undermining reality. As far as we know, everything is built upon the existence of boundaries. If there was no water surface, there could be no lake. If there was no skyline, neither mountain nor sky could exist. Were it not for the Great Hakurei Barrier, even Gensokyo itself wouldn't exist. If there were no boundaries, everything would probably exist as a single enormous object. Thus, the ability to manipulate boundaries is by logic an ability of creation and destruction. It essentially creates a new being, or rejects the existence of a being. Among the abilities yokai are known to possess, this is one of the most dangerous, being comparable even to the power of gods. She's also capable of moving an entirely separate location between gaps in space, whether it be her entire body or only part of her. It's said that this ability is not limited to physical space, but also applies to pictures, other dreams, and even stories. Perfect memento in strict sense. Now, it seems like Yukari's powers is truly unmatched. After all, even Yukari explains she can remove the boundaries of anything. However, this isn't quite the case, as according to the wiki, there are multiple occasions where Yukari's abilities just don't work. The only times that I can think of this comes up with is the fact Yukari needed the moon to reflect off the lake to create a gap there, and when Yuko said that she thinks Yukari couldn't have made the Great Hakurei Barrier by herself. However, there are a lot more statements and evidence saying that she has, so Yuko might just be being a big goober. You can think of another point where her powers didn't work. Let me know in the comment sections below, or in the Patreon comments if you're watching this there. There's hypothetically nothing Yukari can't do with this ability. It's truly terrifying, but who knows? Maybe she used her ability on this very script, and we just never know. So, when talking about a character's personality, and no, that's not a subtext for her breasts, you gooner, I'd say her personality is one of the things most interesting about her in combination with her powers. What is Yukari Yakumo like? Well, Yukari is described as being very yokai-like, whatever the fuck that means, and spends a lot of time sleeping or hanging out in her house. She's like me, for real, bruh. With that aside, she's one of the smartest and strongest beings in Gensokyo, as I previously stated, and is in association with the most powerful influential yokai of Gensokyo. She also seems to know what's going on around Gensokyo before anyone else. An example of this would be in Toho 7.5, Immaterial and Missing Power. Not only was Yukari choosing to show up to the gatherings, rather than actually being affected by Suika's ability, she was fully aware of Suika and her powers, showing her manipulative yet non-hostile nature of Yukari Yakumo. I'd also like to add to this part that, because it's not part of the script, but I wanted to bring it up, Pacioli Knowledge was the only other person who seemed to know what was going on. But that could just be me misunderstanding. Yukari also doesn't like to take care of problems herself. Instead, she prefers to manipulate others into doing it for her. Sometimes out of laziness, and sometimes for an actual reason. Such as making Reimu do her job. This isn't always the case, though. In Toho 10.5, in Yukari's story, which canonicity is up in there, Yukari is enraged by the Heaven's plan, and plans to take care of the problem herself. Again, the canonicity of that is questionable at best. I do believe it's reasonable to believe that we can take it into consideration as her personality, even if the events aren't canon. Because I'm pretty sure it was Reimu who fought her. Who fought Tenchi. But don't take this as her being a good person. I mean, sure, She rarely ever causes fights with humans, and she saves Gensokyo, whether she does it herself or gaslights someone else into doing so. However, she has, on multiple occasions, been a villain or antagonist. Remember, Yukari was the one who allowed the events of Perfect Cherry Blossom to occur. And in Lotus Eaters, she straight up causes Miyori Okunoda's coma as a warning to a character I'm honestly not familiar with. Sanshoko Geidonte? Yeah, I don't know who this character is. I got this part from the wiki. So I wasn't aware of this, and I don't know who that character is. But still, maybe I should add able to put people into comas as part of her powers. So in short, we have a woman who appears to be a lazy bum, a loner, someone whose house seemingly can't be located, but in reality, we have a mastermind pulling the strings behind our back for the sake of Gensokyo. However, with great power comes great responsibility. And if you have to suffer for Yukari to fulfill that responsibility, you will. And with her power and intellect, there's probably nothing you can do to stop her. So regarding history, what is Yukari Yakumo's history? Well, to be honest, I haven't seen everything in Toho lore. There are multiple side games, multiple manga, and even novels, if I recall. This is also something I didn't plan on covering when I originally wrote this script. I'm only going to cover her main appearances in the main games, and these are also abridged versions, so just, keep that in mind. But starting off with Toho 7, Perfect Cherry Blossom PCB, in this game, before the game's events even begin, Yukari meets Yuyuko Sayoji. Yuyuko wants a big-ass tree to bloom, and to do that, she needs to harness the power of spring. So, to Lily White's dismay, Yukari weakened the barrier between the Netherworld and Gensokyo to do so. Sometime later, Reimu tells Yukari that she fucked around and found out, and thus Yukari fixed it because she didn't want to get her ass whooped. In Toho 8 Imperishable Night, Yukari tells Reimu that it's time to fuck around and find out again. And so they go to fight the moon people hiding in the woods, because they want to make an Eternal Night title drop. So Yukari and Reimu, and some other people I guess, beat up a bunch of Lunarians until they stop, as is the way in Gensokyo. She has a few more appearances in other side games, but her last major appearance is Toho 15.5, Anatomy of Common Flowers. In this, Yukari figured out the culprits of the incident, and when Yukari alongside Reimu approached Jun and Shion Yorigami, Yukari said F you, reverse card, and the two resolved the incidents by beating their skulls into the ground. As people do in Gensokyo. What a lovely place, you should go there on your vacation. So, to answer the question, why should you respect Yukari Yakumo? Well, let me tell you by telling you what I like about Yukari. Yukari is an attractive character. Yes, there's no doubt about that. We had a whole segment about that. Her design is fairly nice, and honestly, one of the best in Toho, in my opinion. But again, that's just my opinion. But that aside, I also think she's one of the most fun and interesting characters in the series. Not even the characters in lore can understand why she does half the crap that she does. From her powers to her personality, she's just a very intriguing character. But more than that, I find her kinda terrifying. Many characters note that she plays with her enemies, and that her powers are almost, if not unmatched, outside of the spell card rules. And then, if she wanted to, she could basically do anything. She seems to be a god above Gensokyo's actual gods, and with a snap of her fingers, Gensokyo could be destroyed. And yet, she prefers to just stay home and laze about and have other people do her stuff. Hell, in one of her ending sprites, after she wins a match, she plays with her cat. So, you best be on her best side, or you may not live long enough to see her bad side.